was a report today from the Advocate via Freedom of Information Records request that Brian Kelly rejected 2 settlement offers. Now, if you listen to the show, that should come as no surprise because we actually told you that the Monday after Brian Kelly was fired. What we know now via this Advocate report is the amount of those offers. So what I want to do is take a quick second here and kind of explain this process, because what a lot of people have asked is, well, why would Brian Kelly accept a settlement? And then what would that mean for the opportunity to hire a new coach and all that sort of stuff? So I'll dive into that a little bit. Let me kind of recount how that day went. And by the way, you've now heard from Verge Osbury on this show, Gordon McKernan on this show. Remember, Gordon told us last week he was at the meeting at the governor's mansion when they were discussing the buyout. The governor called a meeting where Gordon was there, Verge was there, Scott Ballard was there, and there were other people who I'm going to assume at this point want to remain anonymous, and that's fine. If a word comes out or they're willing to say that, that's okay. But what we've been able to decipher as the day has gone along, and then certainly Brian Kelly's email a week ago to Scott Woodward, Verge Osbury, Julie Cromer, and Austin Thomas, what that certainly revealed were 2 things. One, a very respectful tone. So the report of this contentious meeting was fabricated. I have no idea where that came from, because I feel like at this point I've spoken to all but one of the people that were in that meeting, and at least one of the people that I know were in that meeting. And they've all said the same thing, that it was very respectful. No, well, 2 people that were in that meeting. That it was respectful, it was not contentious, and so on. And that Kelly is open to a settlement of his buyout. So here's what we know from the Advocate. So the Advocate, via records request, found that the lump sum payment offered to Brian Kelly was $25 million, which Kelly rejected. And then Julie Cromer, LSU's executive deputy AD, increased that settlement offer to $30 million in 2 payments, which is what I was told, that it was a lump sum in 2 payments. So 15 and 15. And Brian Kelly rejected that as well. So that day went like this. Scott Woodward called the meeting with Brian Kelly. We know as of now that meeting was the people who we just talked about. It was Scott Woodward, Verge Osbury, Austin Thomas, Julie Cromer, Brian Kelly. They advised Brian Kelly that he's being fired. 5-minute meeting, very cordial. Kelly leaves. Short time later, he sends that email that we read last week, where Kelly was asking, do you want me to come get my stuff? Do you want to have it sent to me? And he says, as we discussed, I'm open to a settlement of the contract that has to make sense financially. Okay. Short time after that, on that Sunday, Brian Kelly's agent, Trace Armstrong, gets involved, obviously, to negotiate this settlement. That's when the governor was made aware of the firing, the buyout, and then called the meeting at the governor's mansion that Gordon McKernan referred to. And that's what started the firestorm of all of the buyout talks with the governor and led to everything that happened last week. What's important to know about why Brian Kelly would accept a settlement. Remember, the best way to explain it is like if you win the Powerball, everyone takes the lump sum instead of the annuity. You take a lesser amount, but you get it all right now, instead of annual payments for the rest of your life. Now, this wouldn't be for the rest of Brian Kelly's life. This would be over the remainder of the contract. So he can continue getting $800,000 over the remainder of his contract for 6 years, roughly $800K a month for the remaining 6 years, or he could take a lesser amount and get it all right now. But what that lesser amount is what they'd have to negotiate. So the Advocate found this information that Kelly rejected $25 million lump sum and a $30 million lump sum in 2 payments. And I don't blame him. He's owed $54 million. Why would you take 25 or 30? Roughly half that number. So how much higher would they have to get for him to take a lesser amount? The reason that he would take a lesser amount, of course, is to get the lump sum, to not have to wait 6 years to get the totality of your money. But also remember, there's mitigation in his contract. So if Brian Kelly gets another coaching job, his buyout is reduced by his new salary. And that's not only coaching, that's also media. So if he goes and gets a media job that pays him $1 million a year, I don't know if that would be accurate. I'm just throwing out a hypothetical, right? Well, now his buyout is reduced by that $1 million per year, right? So if you look at over the duration of that buyout period, his buyout number is reduced by that number. Would it be smarter to just take all of your money? And then what if he coaches again? What if he coaches and gets a $5 million a year contract or a $3.5 million a year contract? Well, now you're significantly cutting in to the buyout number. And so it might actually behoove you to take a settlement, because if you coach again and get paid more, then your buyout over the 6 years might end up being less than what that settlement is. So that's why you have to negotiate in these terms. He could just sit there and sit on the sidelines for 6 years, not work, and get paid $800K a month over the next 6 years by LSU. But if he wants to work again, whatever he makes, that $53 million will be reduced by that amount. So that's why it makes sense to agree to a settlement, because you could end up making less in the settlement, less not settling if you intend to work again than if you had gone and got another job. Like Ed Ogeron, for example, didn't work again. Ed has not worked since he got fired by LSU in 2021. So he now, this December, is the final payment that'll go to Ed on his $17 million buyout. So he sat and has gotten paid since he was fired. That's the big question that we don't know. Is Brian Kelly going to work again? Does he want to work again? If he does want to work again, be it coaching or television or whatever he may do, it may benefit him to take less. And from an LSU perspective, obviously, you'd rather Brian Kelly take less than the $54 million buyout, $54 million buyout that he's owed. You'd rather pay him less, even if it meant doing it up front in a lump sum, than continuing to pay him for 6 years and be on the books for the next 6 years. So that's kind of where it falls. Well, eventually they'll find some happy medium here. What Gordon told us last week, and if you missed that conversation, would highly recommend you go check it out. It's on podcast and YouTube everywhere. Just search AFR LSU podcast or YouTube, and you'll find the full interview with Gordon. But what Gordon told us on the record, and what I've been told from other people who were in that meeting at the governor's mansion off the record, and the governor alluded to it as well, is that they were in no rush to get to a settlement with Brian Kelly. Like, they're willing to be patient. Kelly, if he wants to work again, is the one who might be in more of a rush. So if you're LSU and you're willing to be patient, keep paying him the $800K a month, then, and Kelly gets to a point where he wants to work again, it may benefit him then to just agree to a settlement, take a lump sum so he can go move on and coach again at whatever that contract number will be. That's what happened with Les Miles. Les was being paid his buyout monthly, and then ultimately he got the Kansas job, so they settled the remainder of his buyout, and then he went to work at Kansas. So in this coming coaching carousel here in November, December, if you want this to reach finality, then you want Brian Kelly to work again. You want him to get a job somewhere, because that will expedite the buyout of, or I guess the settlement of his buyout is a way to say it. I hope that makes sense. I don't know if I did a great job of explaining that, but suffice to say, LSU's in no hurry. They'd rather keep paying him $800K, banking on the fact that Kelly eventually will get a job which will mitigate that buyout, or force Kelly into negotiating a lesser number so that he could just go on and coach wherever the next place will be. So cheer for Brian Kelly to get another job is the long and the short of it. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.